Let me get that started. All right, so we have the recording going. Again, I'll introduce myself. My name's David Zvislin. I'm the CAD manager here at NV5. I work out of our Sacramento office, and as we go through the presentation, I'll kind of let you know a little bit more about what I do, ways of contacting me. Just kind of say briefly, my job as the CAD manager here is really to support all of the engineering and survey staff to make sure that you're able to be productive in the CAD world, making sure that you guys are getting your work done and getting your projects done as effectively as possible. All right, saying that, the orientation process, what I try to do is just kind of walk you through all of our different systems and what we have available in terms of support, kind of a rough overview of what I'll call our standards, which I kind of prefer to use the word more of a best practices, trying to create an environment where you can go into any project, any office, be able to understand where their files are located, how their projects are organized, that you could then contribute and be productive on that job. So it's kind of the big picture of where I'm going to try to go with that. I'm going to start off this morning on our NV5 website here on the My Nolte or My NV5. And if I do say Nolte from time to time, it's because I've got many years of work here at Nolte. Haven't been NV5 all that long, so I use the two names interchangeably. But if I say Nolte, I mean NV5 as well. All right. On the My Nolte or My NV5 website, page I'm going to point out here is there is a CAD page, and not a whole lot on this page. On the left side is an area where I can post any kind of news and information, and I'm excited to say that in a couple weeks I am taking off 2 weeks for vacation, so I get to take some time off. That'll be nice. I also try to post any software update information, any licensing information in this area, you know, where I'm going to be training, which offices I'm visiting, things like that, to, you know, kind of just let people know what's going on. The other item of interest on this page is over here on the left, and this is how we get into our CAD support website. And I actually have a separate web server software, I had to think of what the heck it's called, it's early still, that is a knowledge base application and database of CAD support issues, documents. So all the training materials I've developed for NV5 over the past dozen years are accessible through this area, plus other documents from other sources, all the software manuals, everything in PDF format, plus several thousand Q&A support issues. So the idea is if you have a question and you're kind of struggling to find out or you figure out what the answer is, you can use this utility here. There's two ways to go here. Is we can either type in a question here, you know, so I'm going to say, hey, look, I've already done CAD orientation. So I'm going to look for CAD orientation. I can then click the Ask button, and it'll ask the website. It does what's called a plain language search, and it searches through all the titles of all the documents, and then things like PDFs and some of the other textual-based documents. It will actually index and search those files as well. So you can kind of, as long as you type in the right words, you can kind of type in, you know, a sentence here. You know, I'd like to know NV5 CAD orientation or something like that, and it'll then search on that. This link here will just take you to the web page without a search question. So either click on the we need to get that updated, the Nolte CAD support, or the Ask button here. So I'll go ahead and ask, and that'll then bring us to our CAD support site. As we go through this morning, I'll also show you that there are links to this within all of our AutoCAD menus. We have a set of custom software we call N-Tools or NV5 Tools, and that has some toolbars and ribbon commands that will also bring you to this page. All right, so the way this works is you type in your question here. So again, we can type it in here. You hit the search button, and then it will show you everything that matches. And then if items have an equivalent match based on the wording, it will then sort them by most requested. So you're kind of going to get, here's what most people are looking at. So here's the most common. All right, so for CAD orientation, you'll see our NV5 CAD orientation document shows up. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that and open that up. On this tree view here, the icon indicates what type of document you're going to get. So this little tree item indicates that you're going to get a multi-sheet HTML document, and it's going to have this index on it. All of our training materials, our CAD user manual, a lot of our documents are set up this way so that once you're in it through this initial pick, you're free to go through and step through any of the other chapters in here to help you find or get what you're looking for. All right, so that's, I'll come back to this. I'm going to jump into my orientation handout because this is the outline we're going to go through this morning. So I'm going to go talk about initially CAD resources. We'll talk about our network directory structure, where we store files, how we organize our data. We'll look at our CAD Data Manager program, which is our front-end application that we use to get into AutoCAD and Civil 3D. And then we'll get a little bit more into our standards, and we'll talk about file naming and layer naming standards. We'll take a brief look at the Standards Manager, which is a third-party software that we run inside of AutoCAD that allows you to easily apply company standards. So instead of having to know every possible layer name and what color and line type they need to be, you can go to Standards Manager, select it from a list, or they have a layer building utility basically, and it's all database driven where all of the line types and colors and everything are put into that. We'll talk briefly about how we assemble sheet documents, some of that naming, brief overview of plotting. Mainly I'll talk about our plot styles that we use, and then if I have time, I'll just introduce you briefly to the NTools program and some of the custom applications that we have for that. Let me pause for a sec. Do you both have any AutoCAD or Civil 3D experience? So how about you, Laura?
Yes, I do.
Can't hear you.
Hear me now?
Yeah.
Yeah, just mainly through schoolwork and senior projects and whatnot.
Okay, so both AutoCAD and Civil 3D?
Right.
Okay, how about you, Paul?
I have lots of AutoCAD, mostly land development desktop.
Okay.
And so I have not migrated over to Civil 3D and learned the ins and outs and how the whole program works.
Okay. We still have land desktop on our computers, and I beg that you don't use it. I've forgotten almost all my land desktop now. I mean, it's every now and then I'll get a question on that, and I really have to strain my brain to pull some of that out. The Salt Lake office is predominantly everything they're doing is Civil 3D now. So you're probably not going to find any current projects that they are using land desktop. They were probably one of the first offices to convert from land desktop to Civil 3D. Fortunately for you, with folks like Jim Banks there, that there's going to be lots of support in-house. And then again, as you work through and learn it, feel free to call me. I can easily connect through your desktop and help you as if I was right there in your cubicle with you. So, all right, so we will get you guys up to speed. All right, talking about that, so let me kind of now get back into my handout here. So for CAD resources, talk about what's available for CAD support here. Talk about the CAD support website in a little bit more detail. I'll introduce you to the forum website. Unfortunately, that's never really taken hold. The intent, it was supposed to be kind of where the users could get in and contribute and share and have discussions, and it just never gained any kind of traction or popularity, so it's not used all that much. And then we'll also start looking at our CAD users manual. All right, so we've already talked about the My Nolte or My NV5, and I pointed out that CAD link that takes you to the CAD support site. Some of the other things I'm going to point out this morning is, again, besides those two, we do have in the offices a person or a role designated as a CAD coordinator. Currently for Denver, there is not anyone filling that role. That person left the company about 6 months ago, and we have not designated anybody yet. So in the meantime, I will be the de facto. If you need CAD support, you can call me, and I think you'll find that there's probably one or two folks in each office that people kind of tend to gravitate towards with questions on, plotting and whatever. And I think that'll become apparent. So you got good resources in the offices. Just for Denver, we don't have a designated CAD coordinator. For Salt Lake, Jim Banks is both the IT analyst and the CAD coordinator for that office. So he's kind of doing a dual role with that. All right. Myself, I'm the CAD manager is my title. There's my name. There's my phone number. I'm also available through the Windows Communicator program. Laura has already found me in that this morning. Great way to get in touch with me. I can juggle 2 or 3 of those at once. That's fine. We're also going to take a look at our CAD User's Manual. It's kind of what I'm saying is our primary resource. I don't want to so much say standards because it's hard to dictate a standard, but we do have what I feel are best practices, and there are a few items that, because of the way we've configured our systems and have set things up, that there are some must-do items that you have to follow in order to make sure that all the software and everything is going to behave correctly. Really, it's going to be determined by what your project needs are and what your project requirements are, and we'll talk a little bit about that as we go through. Software at NV5, we do lots and lots of different types of engineering work here on the civil and survey side. We have probably close to 80 different applications that fall under the CAD engineering design software umbrella that I install and maintain and provide support for. In terms of expertise, I support all the Autodesk products, the Civil 3D, the land desktops, the raster designs. I support those fully. For other products, as you get into like the water modeling with some of the Haystead, the storm CADs and sewer CADs, I know some basic on those. It's been a while since I've done any kind of hydraulic analysis, so I'm a little rusty, but I do have good contacts and resources available here at NV5. In addition to that, I can facilitate support through the software manufacturers or the resellers. So try to do all the support myself, or at least coordinate all of it, but that's we've got quite a bit there. The workstation you'll find has almost everything and then some installed on it. You don't need to use it all. We just set it up that way so I know how every workstation is configured. It makes it a little bit easier for me to support that. All right, so the CAD support site, let me kind of walk you through how to use that. So we've already gone through this part. I'm getting into it, and we've clicked into here, and we're kind of that level here. From inside of AutoCAD, our end tools, we're going to have a little toolbar, and I'm not sure how well that's coming across through the GoToMeeting, so I'll make it a little bit bigger. But we have an end tools toolbar, and there's the Nolte O was the logo that we use on the toolbar. That'll bring you to the CAD support site. Oh, I didn't even see Paul. I'm sorry I lost you there.
No, yeah, my computer locked up, but I'm back.
Okay. You stayed on the phone, though, right?
Yeah, I did.
Okay. Yeah, no, I get a big balloon notification that you just rejoined us there, so it's like, oh, dang. All right. So we got a toolbar link there. Also, we have an End Tools ribbon tab, and from that you can have access to the support site, and then there's some direct links to some of the documents in there as well. All right, so we talked about submitting a question. So let me jump back over, and I'm going to kind of jump back and forth between windows here. So let me arrange this a bit so I don't get lost. So the way this works is I'm going to click on the home button here. That wipes it clean. There's no question. So with no question in here, this is just showing you the most frequently viewed documents. And I've kind of cheated, and I've said our CAD user manual has been viewed like 100,000 times. So it's always going to be the first document here. So if you just go directly to the CAD support site, we can click on here, and that'll bring up our CAD user manual. Once we're in these documents, you'll see again the tree structure ones will have this index that we can get in here and start stepping through and get to all the individual chapters. So the CAD user manual is set up this way. All of the custom training materials that I've developed over the years for Civil 3D are modeled this way, plus the individual chapters and and pages within this are all searchable when we click on or submit a question here. All right, so let me see. All right, so question, I'm going to do the one I have in my handout. So how do I delete unused layers? And I just cheated that because I know it was already typed in there. All right, so you type in your question, hit the search, okay, and then it'll go through based on all categories, all subcategories. Here's everything that's going to find. Okay, and it's a little bit overwhelming. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, let me filter that down just to AutoCAD support. All right. So once I change it to AutoCAD support, now it's only going to show me the items relative to that. Okay. Yeah, let me see where I was going to go. Okay. So make sure I'm following my handout correctly. The little question mark indicates that this is just a Q&A. So I'll just click on one here to show you, how do I delete unused data link? And it just says use the data link command. And what these are is every time somebody submits a question here, or anytime somebody emails me or asks me a question, I try to capture that information and put it into this knowledge base. So it's a growing set of information. We've been using this for about 6 years now. It's got several, close to 1,000 Q&As in here, plus another probably 10, 20,000 pages of PDF and Word and whatever documents on here, so there's lots of information in here. If this didn't refine it enough, you can come over and there are some subcategories in here. So maybe I go general and hit the search on that one. For some reason when I do subcategories I have to hit the search button again. And I'm not finding anything in here that's really answering my question. So what you can do then is there's a button down at the bottom where you can submit your question. And this will bring up a form, and you just have to populate the fields where there's an asterisk. So I'll just put in my name, hit the cap lock key. And I'd like to know what office you're in, so I'm working out of Sacramento. And then the rest of this you don't necessarily have to put in here, but it kind of helps if I know what version of Civil 3D you're using. And then don't worry so much about the categories, because I will set these as needed so they get stored in the database correctly. And then in the question field, you can maybe, in addition to the question that you entered, you can type in additional information. What you do then is you submit that question. It will submit it. You go back to doing whatever you're doing, and then I will get come on. It should send me. Anyways, it sends me an email. We'll just pop one open here. And it'll send me an email saying, hey, a question was posted. This is not the same one I just submitted. It's got a little bit of a leg on it here. But then it lets me know that you submitted a question. And if it's fairly urgent and I'm hopefully not in training or in a meeting, I will get back to you fairly quickly with that. So real great way. Ask your question. I like when it's done this way because it makes it real easy for me then to reply back to you through this software, and then also my reply can be captured then as one of the issues. All right, so a couple other items on here, just kind of doing some tours here. FRQs are frequently requested questions, so if I click on this, all it does is it changes the category here. So here we are. Here's what people are looking at most in the CAD user manual. So we can see the top page there. But people are looking at file naming, layer naming, our plot style. Palette A is our plot style that we use when we plot. I go in, here's the most frequently viewed AutoCAD support items, or I can go down to Civil 3D. we can work through that. If I go to software manuals, then it'll show here's all the different manuals that I put in here. And say you're looking for something for Haystead or something like that, I can go in the water. And then here's all the different water documents that we have on here. So instead of having a hardbound paper library somewhere, it's all done through PDFs here. And then training manuals are all of the documents that I've developed over the years. We do all of our own Civil 3D training in-house, custom training, and then we can support that, filter that down to just Civil 3D documents. All of our training classes have a course number on them so you can see whether or not it's a Civil 3D or just a general CAD. And then I try to do it kind of like a university where your freshman level classes are the 100 series. Those are kind of the beginning and introductory courses. And then as you get to something a little bit more advanced, you're going to see 200s and 300s. Not so much that they're more advanced, but they do have prerequisites to them. Before I can do profiling, I have to know alignments. Before I can do corridors, I have to know alignments and profiles, and so on. So we've tried to kind of build them, number them in such a way that makes it a little bit easier to find your way around. All right. Civil 3D Introduction is our beginner course for Civil 3D. So Paul, as you start to learn Civil 3D, you may want to go through this document. I've actually recorded videos for this one as well. So I've done this one as a series of 4 one-hour lectures. Plus there's also tutorial data sets that if you'd like to get into that. But it goes through, all of our handouts are kind of set up. All of our training is set up this way where I try to hit some of the key points, and then there'll be some exercises. So let me come down and look at that transparent commands. It'll show you all the buttons, and it'll just go and do an exercise where you can kind of practice, work through, and try out the commands. And all the training is set up this way. I've written all of these. They all make perfect sense to me. If you get in here and something does not make sense, let me know, and I will clarify, and try to keep these current and up to date. But since I wrote it, my brain knows what they're supposed to say. So again, they make complete sense to me. But for somebody who's new to this, let me know if things are a little bit confusing here. Right. So let me come back to here. So we're back in here. I'm going to hit the home button again. Resets it. A couple other items over here on the far right side. Instead of me trying to write everything, I also provide a link here to the Autodesk University website. I'll go ahead and click on that, and you can create an account through here, and you'll do it through the Help menu in Civil 3D because it uses our serial number, and as long as you use an NV5 email address, you can create an account, and then you can go into their online classes here. And they have a whole site where I can come in and you can search for, I would just say, I try and put my hand on the keyboard in the right space. Alignments. Can't type today. Hit search. And I probably needed to refine it. But it's going to go through and it'll show you all the Civil 3D stuff. And they have several years of classes in here. I don't know if they're, yeah, you can filter by year. So they go back to 2010. So they have 3 years of Civil 3D training materials in here, or of AutoCAD. And you can find anything AutoCAD, Civil 3D, and pretty much just any Autodesk product. So instead of me trying to develop all of this, you can get into here. I can't guarantee you're going to find a good class or a good handout, but you can get to PDF documents in here, the handouts, and a lot of the training sessions are recorded, so you can actually watch the seminar. They're usually 90 minutes in length, and this icon indicates that there is a webcast available. Okay, so just some other links and resources here. I've got screen back to there. All right, and then the last link over here on the far right side is a archive, and these are all the webinars I've done over the past few years. You know, they go back to '09. I haven't done too many recently. I am just starting out. Next week we have one for our Civil 3D 2013. We're starting to do upgrades from 2011 to 13. So next week I'm doing a session on AutoCAD 2013, some of the new features, and then some of the new Nolte tools or NV5 tools that are available. In here you can go through and see an outline of what the course is about, how long it is, and what you can do then is just hit the little play button here. That'll launch off the appropriate video player, and then you can watch these sessions. So you can see right here is, I mentioned about doing the introductory courses. There's 4 chapters here, 4 sessions that I did on Intro to Civil 3D. And you can just kind of go through here and see what's all in there. So great if you want to learn stuff on lunchtime. If you don't get enough of my voice this morning, you can watch me anytime that you want. Plenty to see there. Oops, and I closed my window. Leave that one. Tell you what I'll do is a new link. There we go. All right, so this is where I start getting buried in windows here. Tuck that one there. All right, so that's the CAD support page. So let me jump down through here. So we did the question. All right, so the CAD user's manual. I've already opened that up. We saw that was the top link there on the CAD support page. And this really just explains kind of a best practice document. It's kind of a living document. I try to update it. Websites are easy to build. Keeping them current is the difficult part. Keeping them fresh. Like I need to fix that and change that to NV5. All right. So the idea of our CAD user manual is to capture our best policies and procedures for management, assembly, documentation of projects using CAD. That's kind of the big picture. The goal is to have everybody doing everything in accordance with this manual. Okay, so all of our standards, our layer names, our directory structure, everything we try to keep everybody set up that way. I'm going to come down here and just talk some of the terminology here. IT group is based here in Sacramento as well. In your offices, it's going to be Aaron Spreitzer in Denver and then Jim Banks in Salt Lake, and those are our IT analysts. You guys are classified according to this document as CAD users, and basically that's anybody that does anything with CAD files, with DWGs or DGNs or whichever. Right. Some other words you may hear through the offices. We're going to have a person potentially designated as a project CAD captain. Is the terminology for the person that the project manager assigns responsibility for setting up a project, for making sure that the standards are defined for the project, whether it's using the NV5 CAD standard or a project-based standard. Maybe they're using a national CAD standard or whatever. The CAD captain would be the person that would set all that up. They would also set up what we call a project CAD workbook, which I list down here, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. All right, again, I mentioned the offices. We have a role called the CAD coordinator. Currently, Denver does not have one. Again, in Salt Lake, that would be Jim Banks, and they're kind of responsible for making sure the plotters have paper and inks ordered. Plus, that's also your first line of support if you're having questions or problems. All right. My title is CAD manager. We used to have also working for me a CAD analyst, but when we went through the Great Recession or whatever it was this past few years, we drastically reduced the amount of staff here in Sacramento, so I no longer have a person working for me, so I'm doing several roles now. Not only do I do the CAD management and training, but I also do software installation and all the other basic tasks that this role requires. All right, other terminology. Project CAD workbook We use the word binder, but we actually have a spreadsheet document that we have developed over the years. And the idea behind the CAD workbook is anything that is not documented in the CAD user manual or as a NOLT or NV5 standard, the project should have a workbook explaining what's different. We are using this directory instead of the standard directory, or we're using these layer names, or we're using these drawing names. And the idea is it's a document that anybody can come to the project and be productive fairly quickly by being able to figure out where files are located. Okay, and unfortunately, this is easier said than done. I think people tend to start being busy and don't do a lot on the planning and the organization of the projects. We just kind of tend to dive in and start working on the projects. And unfortunately, as the new employees, I think you guys are going to get a little frustrated where you're going to have to ask a lot. You're going to have to, that's kind of why we have the cubicles with the short walls, I think, is you're going to have to, bother your coworkers a lot. And where's this file? What do I call this layer? Why can't, how do I XREF this or whatever? In a perfect world, it would be documented in the CAD workbook. But we do have that there, so as you progress in the company, as you start working, maybe you become project managers or setting up your own projects, keep in mind that this information or these processes have been thought out and they are there. It's just a matter of using them. All right, project managers, everybody knows what they are. IT analyst, again, that's going to be Aaron and Jim in your offices, and they provide the support for that. So that's just kind of some of the basic terminology that's in there. All right. Actually, while I'm here, let me finish up here on resources. I'm going to talk a little bit on Chapter 2 here on CAD support. And really this is kind of defining how our support process works here. And I've kind of outlined it real basic. We're all went to college and we're trained engineers and we're trained to solve problems. My suggestion is, don't spend any more than 10 or 15 minutes trying to figure something out. Okay, search the CAD support website, do a Google search, whatever you can. If you can't get it solved within 5, 10, 15 minutes or whatever, don't waste time. We've got a lot of great resources here. All right, so at the project level, again, that's where that CAD workbook or the project CAD workbook would come into play. And that's usually going to be in a project work plan folder, and there's going to be an E21 directory. That's where the CAD workbook should be. Okay, odds are you're probably not going to find too many because most people don't take the time to create these, which is unfortunate. All right. Project level, then you'd also have the CAD captain on the project level. And most of you know who you're working with on a project, so you're going to go to them. Okay. And the office level, you're either going to talk to the CAD coordinator or the IT analyst. Again, Jim in Salt Lake, that's interchangeable. Aaron in Denver, Aaron actually comes from a CAD background. He used to be a CAD tech in Denver many years ago. So he has a pretty good understanding of AutoCAD, not so much in Civil 3D because he's been kind of on the IT side now for since we converted over to Civil 3D, but he still has a good basic understanding. He understands plotting and layers and all of that. So you guys are both pretty fortunate that your analysts do have CAD backgrounds. All right. Other CAD coordinators, if you can't get a hold of Aaron or Jim, these other folks are available. They are billable employees, so they may not be immediately available, and their time may be somewhat limited, but they are other resources. So instead of you sitting around going, I can't get a hold of anybody, try one of these guys here, one of these folks. There's email. Here's all the other analysts besides Aaron and Jim. So if they are not available, call one of the other ones. All right, they are all here listed here. And then here again is my name and phone number and email. All right, so that's internal support. Okay, and again, I can support 99.9% of all your Autodesk, AutoCAD, Civil 3D questions. I've been doing it for too many years to mention. So we're good on that. Other software, I can get things running. I can help with the software technical, but I don't use it enough to be able to help with modeling aspects. So if you're building a water network in WaterCAD, okay, I understand nodes and pipes and I can put it together, but in terms of modeling questions, I would refer you to some other folks. So again, feel free to contact me. I can then do the matchmaking and either hook you up with somebody directly here at NV5 that is a resident expert, or I can facilitate the support through the vendor. And I kind of ask that you don't contact vendors directly. Okay, let me set it up. I still may have you work with them directly as opposed to you asking me to ask them, because then we start losing it in translation. But my goal is to capture all of this support that we do, so that I'll add it to our knowledge base, because if you've got that question, more than likely somebody in Sacramento or San Diego or wherever is going to have potentially a similar question. So my goal is to try to capture all of that and make us as efficient as possible. All right, so again, try to coordinate it through me. Obviously, if I'm not available and you're desperate, you can email Bentley support for any of the Haystead or Esri and whatnot. We can, get your account set up that you can contact them directly. If you don't organize it through me, at least let me know what's going on. Okay. Training resources, again, this is a little dated. Our human resource tab on the MyNV5 site's a little outdated. But there is some list of training courses, and it lists all of the Civil 3D courses that I've done or have developed. Probably a better place to find that is going to be on the CAD forum website, which I'll show you in just a little bit. In the forum website, there's a shared documents folder, and there's a Civil 3D training folder, and that has all of the courses I developed or that I am developing. But then there's a couple of spreadsheets there that list the classes either by employee or probably by role is what you'd be interested in. If I'm going to be doing this, what sessions are available. Okay. In the class folders here, you can actually get to PDF versions of the handouts. If you don't want to do the web-based version, you can get a PDF version. And also, I have some of the data sets there. So if you want to work through them as tutorials, you can do that as well. Okay. So we talked about the CAD news panel here, the CAD support. The training videos, I pointed out the link there. All right, Nolte experts. This is way out of date, but if you say search on Nolte CAD software, there's a document that will come up that lists all the software. It will show the experts, but through attrition, pretty much it's mostly my name on there for everything. So it's a little out of date. So if you need help with something, call me. If I don't know, I know who in the company I can ask. All right, so that's kind of our support. Let me jump back into here. So let me go through and introduce you now to the forum website. So let me go back to this document. And there's a link here to the forum, and there's also a forum linked on the My NV5 page as well. And hopefully it's working this morning. There we go. Really quick today. That's good. All right. The goal of the forum website was to be a user page where the users could contribute and share, whereas the CAD support website, everything that's on the CAD support site is because I put it there. I'm the only one that adds content there, so that's where I can put information out to the users. The forum website, the intent there was that users could help users. And really what it's come down to is everything in the forum website's there because I put it there. All right. Just make you aware this is here. Couple of things I'll just point out. I don't put announcements here too much because most people don't come here, but I do have some links over here to some what I thought would be interesting documents that we get like to Autodesk University, some of the common Autodesk blogs and user websites, things like that, is listed over there in links. But the main thing we're going to look at is a couple over here I'm going to do like best practices. And there's not a whole lot here, but we've tried to capture some documentation of things that we've had some success with. So I do have on here a best practice guide and some CAD QA QC checklist to go through as you're working through a project. What do I need to check? What do I need to be aware of to kind of help you with some of the QA QC? We've also done a lot in Northern California where we do the work in AutoCAD, but we have to convert to MicroStation to submit to the Caltrans. So we've got quite a few items here on that. We've got some documents and stuff in here for working with real complex corridors. All right, so just some best practices. And then under shared documents, this is where the bulk of this content is here. We've tried to build a little library or start a library where if you build custom vehicles for AutoTurn, you can store them here, and then other people, if they need that, they can bring that in. So and these are ones that I've built for some other offices. We have a huge fire truck that we did, and then the Denver office did the Vestas wind-generated turbine plant there up in Loveland or Fort Collins or Windsor, I guess it's up in Windsor. And we actually built a vehicle that was the little tug and then the 40-meter turbine blade pulled behind it. So we actually built that custom vehicle. That was kind of a fun thing to do. Also in here, the Civil 3D training that I mentioned. This is where I'm actually storing the actual Word documents, and I ask that you don't check out the Word documents because I actually edit them here. But say I want to look up, and it looks like I did grading. It'll come into the document, so there's the original Word document. The white piece of paper is a PDF, and for some reason SharePoint doesn't have a PDF logo or icon, but they use this white paper. And I'll just go ahead and click on that just so you can see that we can get into a printed version of the training handouts instead of the web-based. So if you do want to print one of these out, hopefully you don't because that's not sustainable, but you can get in and look at the document as a piece of paper. Right, so let me come back to there. And then some of these will have zip files with the data sets. Okay, if you want to work through the handout as a tutorial and you can't find the data set, let me know and I'll get you a copy of it set up for you. All right, so that's a shared document. Also on here, we have these discussion boards, like there's a Civil 3D discussion board, and you can see the last time somebody posted on here was a little over a year and a half ago almost. So we tried to use it, but just it's not happening. I will let you know that if you do post something on here, it does notify me that somebody posted something here, so you're not posting in a vacuum. It's not going to disappear and go away. I will see it and I will try to respond to it as quickly as I can. So just another way for you to get in and ask questions here. But probably the main thing you'll use the site for is if you want to get to some of the training handouts or some of the other training documents that I have available on here. All right, so we talked about that. Let's talk about accessing it. All right. All right, let's move in. You guys still with me?
Yep.
Take a breath. All right, because I'm really sprinting here. I'm getting up to full speed here. Pace is going strong. I don't get the nice visual feedback that your eyes have rolled into your head or you're glazed over, so I have to stop and ask every now and then to see if you're still with me.
Still good.
And I'll drink a little coffee, so if you have some coffee, feel free to enjoy. All right. Network and directory structure, and hopefully Jim and Aaron have already done a little bit of this with you, so hopefully this is a refresher in talking about the different, how we set up our projects. So I'm going to point to Chapter 5 of the CAD User Manual, so let me go ahead and jump back into my CAD User Manual. And I'm going to skip a few chapters here. Project setup and project documentation are kind of geared towards the CAD captains and the project managers, and they're just kind of CAD issues and items that need to be addressed at the beginning of the project. Think about these things. you know, how is it going to be a complex job, simple job? But there's just some checklists and the items to be aware of for setting up the job. And the project documentation talks about our CAD workbook for the project and what items we felt should be documented. All right, so I'm going to come down Chapter 5 here. You open that up. The directory structure here, so we're going to start with our directory structure setup. Boy, the fonts look terrible when you make them real big. Okay. All right, so we got lots of drawings, lots of data, and the intent is with our directory structure and most of our standards is to make it so that anybody from any office, any new employee can come in and with minimal effort find files, find exactly what they're looking for. If you need to express something, you know what file to attach, you know where it's going to come from. Okay, so that's kind of the intent here. All right, so hopefully this is the part that Jim and Aaron went through with you guys. Our server names, every office has a server. Here's the names, and the main reason I list them here is occasionally, you know, especially with Denver, you're going to be doing a lot of work with Colorado Springs. You're going to be able to grab something off the Colorado Springs server. What's their server name? So theirs is CSS2. Salt Lake, you guys do a lot of work with, I think right now with San Diego. For some reason you got kind of linked to San Diego, so there's some sharing of work there. So we do try to share resources between the offices. So you will need from time to time to go and grab something off another server. Very rarely will you work off another server. Occasionally we will do that if it's a small file. I need to open it. We'll map your project drive to their server and go from there. But it's not the most efficient way to work. We do have some network acceleration hardware on our computer or on our networks. It's a piece of equipment called Riverbed, and what it does is if I pull something from another office, it actually caches it in both offices, so the next time I go to open it, it's going to say, hey, I've already got that cached here in Sacramento, and it'll open it up instantly. I don't have to pull it, read it entirely from Denver or San Diego or wherever I'm reading that from. So we do have some WAN optimization utilities on there that do facilitate a little bit being able to open files from another office, but really not the most effective, efficient way to work. And we do have some other utilities available for that. All right, so for each server, we have three main shares that are set up. We have one called Project, which is going to have the project data. We have one called DOS Apps, which is a very old name because we don't use DOS anymore. We use Windows, and actually I still use DOS for some things, but we've never renamed these things. But that has all of the common application data. So any, for like AutoCAD, all of our common plot styles are stored there. All of our any custom font files or hatch patterns or shape files, all that gets stored in directories on the DOS apps. So that's kind of the common folders, the common configuration folders are going to be under DOS apps on that share. And then we have the general, and that's where you're going to have your user folder. That's where you're going to have your private little folder where you can put your stuff. All right. We then map those to drive letters. And again, this should be a little redundant what Jim and Aaron said. So we map the G drive to our general folder. So that's where your user folder is going to be. The N drive is mapped to the project folder. So anytime we open CAD files, you want to be doing it from the N drive. Right? If you go to another office, what you'll want to do is map your N drive to their project share. Okay, don't use different drive letters. Don't start using M, O, P, Q, or L, or whatever, because all of the AutoCAD XREFs, file references, Civil 3D uses what are called data references. All of that is using that drive letter N:, so you're going to start breaking references if you do that. All right. And then the Q drive is mapped to that common DOS apps folder. That's going to have all of our common configuration data. So main ones here, N, G, and Q. In the CAD user manual, let me highlight this for a sec. Anytime you see a big square bullet item, that is a standard item. That is a must be done this way. This is the way we have to do it. So one of the things I dictate here is that all data must be, all project data must be on the N drive. I get real frustrated when people like, well, I don't want to mess something up, so I'll copy it to my C drive so I can work on it there, or I copy it to my G drive folder because I don't want anybody to mess my thing up. No, if it's data for a project, if it's a drawing for a project, it must be in the project folder. Right? That way we don't, otherwise we end up with redundancy. We lose data that way. And, you know, I probably get 1 or 2 calls every 3 or 4 months. I can't find this file, or how do I know which one's the current one? Okay, so
well, can I ask you a question on that?
Yeah.
What about for projects that are not official projects yet? Let's say we're doing a conceptual layout.
Yeah, we still do that on the N drive, and it's kind of customized between office. I'll have to see what Salt Lake and Denver do, but a lot of times we'll begin a project with a BD prefix for business development. And that may not be always the case, but we do have, most of the offices do have a project directory on the N drive that they will set that up with, do all their preliminary maps and exhibits and whatever they need to do to generate the proposal. Once we get the contract, though, at that point, then we're going to move it to a project, and we'll move that data. And there may be a little cleanup, you know, get the data references working again at that point when you rename it. But yeah, but we do all the business development is still done on the N drive. Really, your user drive, the G drive, that's going to have, say, if you have your own spreadsheets for doing rationale method or whatever, that's where you would store your templates, your blank ones. Okay, but as soon as you put any kind of project data, that file, whether it's a CAD document, a Word document, an Excel, needs to be put in the project folder. Okay, so that way we can find that, but you know, and that way, you know, we keep track of it that way. All right, so that's our drive letters. Moving down, project naming, we're going to see all the offices are going to have a 2-digit, 2-character abbreviation. So DV for Denver, SL for Salt Lake. Mine is MA is our corporate office here. SA is Sacramento, SD San Diego, and so on. For job numbers, most newer projects are going to have the B as in boy. Once we run out of these 4 digits, then we'll go to C as in Charlie, and so on. So right now we're on Bs. So it's going to be DVB, 4 digits, SLB, 4 digits. Okay. Older projects prior to 2003, we just had the office and then the 4 digits. Okay, is all we want to see. If a project is phased, and it's really more to be not so much the data, but is the contract done by phases, and if the data is not contiguous. So you've got a project for a client, we've opened up a single job number for that client, but we're working on a couple of different sites. We would then use a phase number on there to indicate which site. Okay, and we don't put any text or descriptors or anything on this. We do everything by job number. You can then correlate through vision. You can do a quick search on the job, find out what job number it is. We also have our CAD Data Manager tool, which also has a way you can put in some textual information. So as you select on jobs, you can see a description or words. All right, but in terms of the directory structure, we keep it real simple and use just the job number. All right, so I'm going to explore just a little bit. Let me go to Salt Lake, I think, and I already forgot your. Salt Lake is S1. All right. Hopefully that's correct. Tell me my document's out of date already. Dang. Strike 2. All right.
I have it as S1, SL S1.
Okay, so S1 does work. All right. I just need to be patient then. Did my network go down?
Oh, you have, no, you're right.
Yeah,
It should work.
there it goes. All right, I just need to be patient. All right, so I'm going to look at your project here. It's all that streaming video being watched in your office that slows us down. All right.
Yeah, it's not a fast connection.
I know, and then plus everybody's streaming video, which doesn't help. All right, so here we'll see, I'm in Salt Lake office now, so I'm on their N drive. They've got Colorado Springs projects, they've got Denver projects they're working on here. I try to avoid doing this. Don't put 0 zeros on there, that didn't help anybody. Okay, there you'll find a few of those. Then you'll find, there's no job number. This hidden pink might be a BD job, somebody's doing a business development job. But you'll see as you get to the most part, here's some older projects, just SLs. All right, these are probably some business development jobs where they don't have a job number yet, is what they're doing here. Okay, but then as we get down now, we'll see, Salt Lake's pretty good because Jim is a pretty good CAD coordinator in terms of, you don't mess with Jim. He's a big guy, so you do it standard. You do it standard, or you get Jim staring down your back, or, standing behind you, glaring. All right, I'm going to randomly grab one here and see how I did, and pop one open here. All right, so of course I probably grabbed a huge one. All right, so we're looking at directory names, and then let's look at the project folders now while that's opening them up. All right, so again, the big bullet items here, required folders. All right, so don't store anything in the project root folder. Okay. And if and files shouldn't be in parent folder. So what that's saying is if a folder has subdirectories, there shouldn't be any data in that folder. The data only goes out. We do the branches out into the different directories, and then at that outer branch is where all the data gets stored. Okay. And then all of our CAD files, whether they're AutoCAD DWG or MicroStation DGN, need to go in this CAD folder. Okay, and this is an old name, CADD. I personally, when I write, will just use a single D because that's cool, and it also saves me 8 million Ds in my life, I think, that I've not had to type by doing just a single D. So the folder is 2 Ds. When I write about it, I usually just use a single D, but just kind of stress that because I do get people who will set up a project and they will type in CAD, and then several months from now they're going to wonder why can't it find any of my XREFs or why isn't stuff not working. All right, so every project will have that. Don't delete or rename that folder. For Civil 3D projects, we have a Civil 3D folder, and that's where we're going to put our data shortcut files and our survey databases. Right. For the older land desktop projects, there will be a soft desk folder because that was the precursor to land desktop, and that's where our land desktop databases get stored. Okay, so for those older projects where you're going to do land desktop, that's where that will be set up. Our CAD data manager software that we wrote, that is our front end to getting into AutoCAD and Civil 3D and Land Desktop, that will set these folders up for Civil 3D and for Land Desktop as you launch the program. It will actually set these to the project level, so that way when you create a new drawing in Land Desktop, you will only see the Land Desktop project that's in this folder. Or when you're in Civil 3D and you want to data reference a surface, you will only see the data shortcuts that are in this folder here. Because of that, you do need to use the CAD Data Manager to switch to working on the different projects. So you have to close down Civil 3D, go to Data Manager, and then launch another session, a new session of Civil 3D with the correct project to make sure those paths are set correctly. All right, so just kind of, and we'll see that a little bit. I'll talk about a little bit Data Manager once we get there. The Documents folder here, let me kind of just do it through here. Documents, that's going to have all of the non-CAD stuff, so Word documents, spreadsheets, anything you want, all that can go in there. I don't care about that too much. It's not CAD stuff, so you're kind of free to do what you want. We do have a DELV for deliverables and an RECV for receivables, and that's just where you would store transmittals. So you're compiling a set of documents to send to a client or send to a city for a submittal. You would do maybe e-transmit to a folder under the deliverable directory, and that's just a way for you to capture, here's what I sent them, zip it up, send it to them, or however you're going to handle that. The receivable is when stuff comes in. An architect sends you their site plan drawing. You would put the original in this folder somewhere, probably in a subdirectory. We'll look at that a little bit. You'll clean it up, you'll purge it, you'll audit, whatever you need to do to clean it up. But the copy you actually work with will be placed somewhere in the CAD folder. Okay, so this is just a record of everything that you sent out of your office. This folder is a record of everything that the original files that came in. Okay. GIS folders, if you're doing any ArcMap or Esri, that's where you're going to store your MXD and your geodatabase files. The images folder is going to have all of the aerial photography, any scanned documents, or if you go out and take pictures at a site, that's where you store the digital photos. Okay, I'm going to skip some of these. If you see an LIB or LIB V5 or V7, these are for our Standards Manager program, and in the past, it had a way of actually copying and creating a custom standards library at the project level, and we don't do that too much anymore. So you're going to see newer projects who won't have those two folders or an LIB folder, whereas if you see them on some of the older projects, that's more likely you're going to find the title blocks are going to be in that location. You know, the master files for the title blocks will be there. Project work plan contains all the work plan documents. Not used too often. Again, you're going to find that most people begin work and we don't do the project work plan piece as well as we should, so not a whole lot there. And then temp folders will get deleted, so don't store stuff there. All right, so let me see if this opened up yet. All right, so this folder, so this one they've put their project work plan in a non-standard location. That's fine. We'll leave it at that. They talk about the CAD folder here. All right, so we'll see how they did. So in the CAD, man, your network's slow. How do you guys get anything done? All right, so you'll see, again, the rule I talked about, if a folder is a parent directory, there's no data in that folder. So they've done a good job here. This folder has subdirectories, so there aren't any drawing files here. Main ones you're going to see in a project are going to be master, survey, civil, IP, exhibits, and so on. So let me jump down in here. Let me finish this chapter here, I guess. Application folders, if you're doing WaterCADs, whatever, what we typically do is we'll name it after the product, so Haystead StormCAD. Or if you're doing MX, well, we don't use, these are an old picture, we don't have this software anymore. You know, but if you're doing like H2O.net or any of the other hydraulic storm drain design, just create a folder, name it after the application, put the data there. Okay. Survey data, we usually will do a survey folder at the project root, and that's where they then have all their import-export files, all their data collector files, their whatever they do. Some offices actually put these group of folders up under the CAD survey, because what happens is they start integrating the drawing files with this as well. They'll have a field data, they'll have their field data files, but then they'll also have the drawing where they imported that data into Civil 3D, and they'll put that in the same folder. So because they were putting drawing files in these, some offices you're going to find that this data is actually up here under the CAD directory, under survey. All right, structures, project work plan, blah, blah, blah. We'll skip that. So let's look at, kind of drill our way down now. All right, so for a typical project under the CAD, you're going to see it sorted out by disciplines. You're going to see civil, survey. You'll always have a master, and I want to point out that is not masters. It is master, and the reason I stress that is I get people all the time typing that wrong, making it plural, and that does break some of our automation. We do automate a little bit with external references so that we know I can take this project, move it to another office, whatever, and it'll find its extras. Okay, so we have master files, and then you're going to have your civil folder with the civil sheet drawings, and then a survey folder with the civil tries again with the survey sheet drawings, and then some projects we have a working folder, which is where you have documents or drawings that are not master or sheets, but they're where you're building a surface model or manipulating data, playing with stuff. At some point, you will then create from that the corresponding master file, and that would then go in the master folder. We also have some tools for sharing drawings between offices, and we call that, when offices work together, we call that interregional services. So you're going to see the terminology IRS, and that program utilizes the working folder where we can check out master files to the working folder, edit them, and then check them back in again, and then those get replicated to all the offices. So typically that's what you're going to see. All right. Some of the file types, we do have what we call master files, and then the other type that I've been referring to are the sheet drawings, which will then XREF the master files, and then that's where you put your title blocks and your annotations. So you're going to kind of introduce that, and I'll hit on that a little bit later. Okay. All right. Option for files, instead of doing it by discipline, civil, or survey, you could also do it by sheet type. So we have ALTA maps, boundary topos, exhibits, improvement plans. And we'll see, if we look at this one, they're doing it that way. So they do have exhibits, improvement plans, and then they have the survey folder. Okay. So very common. So you may see a mix or match. Sometimes you'll see under the civil folder is where you'll have the sheet set types here. But you're almost always, actually you always should have a master folder. Okay. Here's some of our common abbreviations that we use. Here's some of our common discipline names that we use. Okay. More plan set types. We do a lot of different stuff, so we've got 8 zillion abbreviations. Okay. And then application specific, here's some of the common application names. All right, the document folder, I'm not going to worry about that. For images, let me step back here and see, again, the common folders here. Yeah, so we've got images, we've got documents, we've got deliverable, receivable. All right. We typically will sort this out based on maps. Are going to be like scan drawings, if you got USGS quad sheets or whatever. Ortho is any aerial ortho imagery. Photos will be site pictures, and then if you do any kind of visualization or rendering, we have a rendering. For site photos, if you want to capture date and time, site visit, we'll do subdirectories, and we use a common folder naming format where we'll go year, month, day, so that way they sort real nice in Windows Explorer, and then dash a description of what the pictures are. And we'll see that in a couple other locations as well. I'm going to skip that one. The libraries already talked about. All right, the deliverable folder. Okay, these are files that are going to leave your office. So you can do AutoCAD, you can do an e-transmit to this location. The way we set this up is we'll have a directory for the recipient, so the agency or the client. And then again, we'll do the subdirectory with the year, month, day, and then a description of what the deliverable is. So that makes it real nice. You can set this up, have e-transmit build all that for you, zip this up, send it to the client, or however you want to transmit that. We also do either a history or an archive at this location, and the idea behind this is instead of doing a save as in the CAD folder somewhere, is if you want to capture something, I want to, my manager always goes back to the last iteration. So instead of doing a save as with your name on it or temp or whatever, is create a directory here under history or archive and copy the drawing down here. And that way they'll have the original file name, but the goal behind that then is that the CAD folder and these master, all these folders in here, will have only a single instance of any drawing file. So that way when I get in there and I see, 4 proposed topo drawings or map, site plans, I don't have to guess which one to use. There should only be one of every file here, and that way it makes it real easy to know which one that I XREF, which one that I work in, which one I'm going to find that line type in, or that line in, that I need to modify. So that way you only have a single copy. So if you do need to back stuff up because you know it's going to change or you want to capture something, do it to the deliverable folder here. All right, that way it's nice because then if you need to revert, you can copy it from here, overwrite the one back in the master folder, and all your data references, all your X references should work just fine. Okay, receivable folder, same kind of thing, coming in, who it's from, and then again date and time, date and description of what that is. Okay, things like large raster images, I probably wouldn't store the file in that folder and also the images folder. I would probably just move it to the images folder and then put a note or some kind of text document in the receivable indicating, hey, we got this from so-and-so, but we stored it in the image folder. Okay. I also suggest that you do not XREF from this location because every now and then we do archive these folders independently from the project. So not too often anymore because hard drives are so cheap we can buy lots of space. But the workflow is you bring it in, you audit, purge, you clean it up, and then you copy the cleaned up version to the appropriate location in the CAD folder. And that's more likely going to be the master directory, so that way you can then use this as a reference. Okay. GIS data I'll skip. For Civil 3D, there should be, we'll create a shortcut folder where it creates all the data shortcut files for Civil 3D. And then if we do survey databases, in the format I try to preach for doing our survey databases is to name them using the same job number. So that way when you're working in Civil 3D and you're working with survey data, you know you've got the right survey database that corresponds to that project. Okay, so you know that you're in the right location. So you're going to see that here. All right. I'm going to skip land desktop. Okay, so let me jump back to this handout. So I think I've kind of gone through that. All right, so kind of let's back off a little bit now. So we've got the data, the directory structure, and where the files are going to be located. And kind of to help you with that, let me minimize all of this here, get down to my desktop. We have a program here called the CAD Data Manager. On some of our older workstations, it's going to be called Cadillac, is the old version. And the joke behind that was the guy who wrote the software had major scope creep and made it do so much stuff that we really didn't need. That somebody commented, hey, instead of a Volkswagen, you're building us a Cadillac. So that was the name for a while. This new version, we are calling it the CAD Data Manager, just kind of cleaning things up a little bit. What this is, I'll go ahead and open that up, is it's a utility that we've developed over the years. We've been using a form of this now for almost 10 years to facilitate the management of your CAD data and also the configuration of Land Desktop and Civil 3D so that we can keep all of the project data within the project directory structure. The way Autodesk wrote Land Desktop and Civil 3D is you designate a project root folder and then it stores all the project under that single folder. And what happens then is if you were to do that in Land Desktop or Civil 3D, in some of our offices you would have thousands of projects to choose from every time you want to data reference something. Okay, so we've overcome that by rearranging the directory structure a little bit, but because of that, you'll see like when I pick on a job here, it will then, if I launch Land Desktop, it'll set my Land Desktop project path to that. It will set my Civil 3D project path to that. So that's one of the main things this utility does, is that when I go to open a drawing from this project in Civil 3D, that when I go to data shortcut or data reference, I'm going to get the right data. Okay, so that's kind of the main thing that's done with this. Right. The other thing that this does for us is it allows us to serve up multiple flavors of Civil 3D and Land Desktop that we can come in and from a single interface pick the right version, and then we also control all of our third-party add-on applications through profiles. So if I want to do, say, raster design, I can come in and say I want my Civil 3D 2013. I want the raster design profile, so that way when I open a drawing, it will also load raster design. Or if you're doing truck turning templates, we can grab auto turn. Or if you're a surveyor doing point clouds, you can grab CloudWorks and so on. So all of those will show up as available here. And let me go back to 2011 on here. For 2011, we can also then get to all of the Hasted products that are available with that one as well. Okay, we don't have all those yet configured for 2013. We're still waiting for them to come out with that. So just allows us to kind of manage. Instead of giving you all the tools in one session, we can kind of break it out into something a little more manageable. Okay. If you want plain, simple Civil 3D, you want to use the Civil 3D, C3D 2011 Imperial. We'll give you Imperial units. Or if you're doing 13, you would want the C3D 2013 Imperial as well. Okay, those are our basic Civil 3D profiles. All right, so that's two things now. So it's going to control, when I select a project, it will set, when I go down here, it will set these paths for me, and then also it controls what version. In the project tree here, the nice thing about this is instead of seeing all 800 jobs or 30 jobs or 90 jobs on your server, is you pick and choose what you see in here. And what you can do is just right-click anywhere in the tree view here, add a job folder, and then I'm going to go, I'm working just on my end drive, and I'll grab one of these Sacramento jobs. And what you want to do is you want to pick the project root. Okay, you can drill down and pick deeper. I find it works best if you just pick the job root. So I'll pick on that, and then it'll add that to my list. So I think I grabbed that one there. And then that shows up, and then I can just work my way down into the CAD folder. Okay. To remove a job, say I don't want that one anymore, I select the folder, right-click, and I can remove it. And that takes it off my tree here. You can do the same thing with these two buttons up at the top. The CAD Data Manager, one of the nice things it does is it also lets me export this list to an external file. So that way, if I go to another office, it won't be able to find these projects. It will delete them from the list. So that way, when I get back to my office, I can re-import the list and rebuild this. So what will happen is, so if your N drive is not available and you open up the Data Manager, it removes all these N drive jobs from the list because it can't find them. Okay, so being able to export and import lets you bring those back. All right. Let me kind of come down and pick on. All my training projects have a TRB job number, so that's what those are. And you'll notice down here as I pick on this 320, it's telling me, hey, that's training, that's Civil 3D feature line training. Okay. I was able to do that by using this little gear button here that I can go in and I can actually put descriptions on. So this is where you can add in project names. So the job number will still show up as the project folder, but we can add additional information. Okay, a couple new things for 2013 as well is we're making it so you can tell it what version of Civil 3D that you're assigned to this project, and it will warn you if you're trying to open a 2011 project in 2013, because Civil 3D data is not backwards compatible, and once you open it in 13, if you wanted it in 11, too bad, it's now 13. Okay, and there's few other things on here, but you can kind of go through and you'll see most of mine I've set this up. And these settings, these are saved at the project. This is not, when you go into settings here, this is not your settings. This is for the project. That'll be saved so everybody will see that description in here. All right, so let me go ahead and kind of play with the project. We'll go with this one here as I work down the CAD. So I'll go in the master. So as you select a folder here, it will populate the drawing list. As you pick on drawings, you get a nice big thumbnail showing you what it is. If that's what you want, you hit open. Okay, and there's a few options. Don't turn on this show version. What that does is it reads the drawing, but it really slows it way down because we have to dig through the drawing file to try to find where that version information is. It's real slow. If you need to use it intermittently. but then when you're done, to clear it, because we do have some issues sometimes it doesn't release the drawing and it'll only open it read only. So I'd probably leave that off. Okay. Other tab in here, the recent work tab. This is everything I've opened in Civil 3D 2013. So starting with yesterday, or last time I worked on, and the same kind of things you can down here. If there's a thumbnail, you'll see the thumbnail. Hit open, it'll launch it. Okay. If you switch to a different version, if I go to 11, it will now show me here's everything I've been working on in 2011. Okay, so this is version program independent here. So as I go back to 13, it'll show me here's all my 13. If I go to land desktop, it'll show me, got a bad profile here, that one. It'll show me everything I've opened in land desktop. So let me go back. I'll play in 11. All right. So I'll just open that just to kind of get into here to have one open. All right. So that's kind of our tool for helping you manage. Again, the workflow is you select the job, you go down to the CAD folder, to the appropriate subdirectory, select the file, open it. If you need to work on a different job, you need to close Civil 3D or land desktop, switch to the other job inside the CAD data manager, relaunch or reopen it. All right. So that way we make sure those project paths are set correctly. And then as soon as I get this open, I'll kind of point that out. I pretty much leave the CAD data manager open all the time. It's always open. Okay. Let me get to my civil. So
let me ask you a question on this. So when you open up a new project, not a new project, but let's say a new drawing in the same project, do you use CAD or use the CAD data manager?
As long as you're in the same project, you can go either way. Okay, so I can either come up here and create a new, or in Civil 3D it's real nice because they've got all your templates right here. So I can, I want that template, create a new drawing. So I can do that here as long as I'm staying within the project. Or in the CAD data manager, we do have a create file tab where I can come in and say, okay, I want the same template, and then I can enter my name here and create a new file. And what it does is it copies the template to the folder, makes the new file, and then opens that. Okay. And just you got to watch, if I say create new now, it's actually going to launch another. Each time I hit the create new or the file open, it creates a new session. We don't open it in the current session here. So as long as you're staying, as long as you're staying within this job, I can come either here, make a new file this way. Whatever is, just be cognizant of the project folder, because we're going to see, in terms of like Civil 3D data shortcuts, you'll see the data shortcuts, because I went through CAD Data Manager, is set to this job, Civil 3D, so that does match my job here. Same thing if I were going to survey and look at my working folder here, we'll see my working folder is set to that job, Civil 3D. So it knows that information. Okay. You got more question there, Paul? Or?
No, that was it.
Okay. Yeah, as long as you're not jumping between projects, feel free. I mean, if you do switch to another project here, that just means on my data shortcuts, I have to go in and I have to reset manually my working folder. Okay, and the problem is people forget that. And next thing you know, you're either working with the wrong surface or you put your data shortcut to the wrong location. All right. So let me figure out where I was. That one there. So we went through the CAD Data Manager. There's all the profiles, blah, blah, blah. So how to make a new one. So there's the icons. So there's Data Manager, the catapult. Showed you how to add a job, create a new drawing. I kind of did that. Land desktop, blah, blah, blah. Skip that. I don't want you guys using land desktop. I showed you the recent tab. Okay, a couple other tabs on there for the CAD Data Manager. There is a project setup tab that's in the newer version. Cadillac. These are all new to CAD Data Manager. So where I can actually, TRB 29. And what you go through is we can actually say I want our basic folder, and it'll go through and it'll make all of these. I hit create, and it'll set all that up for me. It's got all the right names. I can also set up to add it to my tree, so I'll hit create, and I'll come over here, and that's now ready for me to go. And all set up and ready for me to work. I just need to create files. Okay, so that's the project setup. The IRS tab is our interregional projects, and this is tied to a database where I can go through. Right now, this is the only job that we're working on with this. This is still kind of the beta test of it, but it's a database app that keeps track of where files are. So these are all checked in, and I don't think there's any in the office. Yeah, they're all checked in, but I can come in, and the database knows who checked in and out. There's ways of capturing what was done. Not a whole lot done on that. Yeah, so we keep a record of here's everything that was done to that file, and then there's ways to say, well, synchronize. So I can see, well, that one's out of date on my system, so I can synchronize it. It'll skip me current. And then there's also some utilities for managing the Civil 3D data shortcuts between multiple offices. That's the IRS. And then the last tab, we just, for the heck of it, since this is always open, I threw in a little HTML viewer with the support page. So there's just another way to get directly to the support documents on here. All right. All right, so we talked about, let me jump back into here. So for file naming now, so we talked about the directory structure. We saw how CAD Data Manager kind of gets us into the right folders and where all that's stored. In terms of file naming, we've got 3 or 4 main file types. The first type that we came up with were called master files. And I'm not sure why I didn't put them in order, but master drawings is kind of the legacy. That's got all of the line work. So we have a master file that shows lot lines, another master file that shows curb, gutter, and sidewalk, another master file that shows water lines, another one possibly for sewer and storm and so on. And the intent is that there is only one instance of any line in the project. So that lot line is only drawn once. It's in the lot line master file. If you need to see that in other drawings, you will then XREF it. Okay. Expanding on that, for Civil 3D, we have what we call model files. So Land Desktop stored all the data in an external database. You had TIN files, you had the point database, you had the alignment database, all the external data files. Civil 3D, all of that is stored as objects in the drawing. So those are what we call model files. And for Civil 3D, we will name those. We'll put a C3 or a -C3 on the end of the file name to indicate that this contains the object. Sometimes we can use the model if we got the right styles assigned. That model drawing may also be what we XREF as the master. So that may have kind of a dual use on there. So we have that slight distinction. So not always, but sometimes that Civil 3D drawing may also be a master. Okay. Sheet drawing is another term we use. That's where we will then XREF all the appropriate master files depending on what you need to see in the sheet. That's where we'll then set up in Paperspace a title block, viewports. We'll do all of the annotation that is unique to that sheet. All the labeling will be done in that sheet. And typically, we do 1 plotted sheet per sheet drawing. And the reason I do it that way is that way on a larger project, if I've got red lines and I've got 20 sheets, I can have 4 or 5 people working on different sheets. Whereas if you had all of them as layouts in a single drawing, I can only have 1 person editing that. Okay, and also by going to multiple drawings with 1 sheet per drawing, we can start using things like XREF clipping, surface masking, and things like that, where we can control with great precision how much information is displayed within that sheet. Whereas when I start doing multiple layouts, well, I can't XClip because what I clip for one layout is going to mess up the other layouts. Okay, so kind of different ways. Sometimes it makes sense to do multiple layouts in a single drawing file. But typically we try to do it where each sheet drawing has got just a single layout tab, single set of viewports, because it gives you just multiple flexibility. All right. Another type of file is a working drawing, and really a working drawing is neither of these. So it's a file where you're playing with stuff, you're trying things out. From that, you will probably generate the appropriate master file. Okay. But the drawing itself is not going to be XREF. It does not contain, possibly does not contain any Civil 3D stuff. Maybe it's where you play with it to kind of figure out how you're going to do your design. At some point, then it'll get moved, or it may become a model drawing at that point. Okay, and then we also have exhibit drawings. Those are more than likely going to XREF master files, but they're not going to have title blocks. They're more pictorial for doing, proposals and posters and whatever. All right. So for file naming, so let me jump into the CAD user manual here. It's that one there, and we'll look at drawing file names. Okay. So for master file names, they evolved from they evolved from our layer naming standard, and what we found is the master files were really just subsets of layers. Okay. And our layer naming you'll see in a little bit is based on 2 character abbreviations. We have a major, a group, and then a descriptor for our layers, and what we found is our master files were just based by group. So our master file names are usually going to have 4 characters. The first 2 would be major, and that's in most cases either going to be EX or PR, existing and proposed. And then our group or feature code. Okay, is it mapping? Is it topography? Is it utility? Is it water? Is it electrical? Is it storm drain? It's going to indicate that. Occasionally, it will also get a sub or descriptor, and that's going to be, is it a master file that is just labeling? It will then have a TX for text. Or if it's just contours, we'd put a CN to indicate that it was contours. All right, for example here, existing topo contour is existing TO for topography, CN for contours. But if it's got more than contours, like trees and shrubs and rocks and creeks and streams and all the other natural occurring stuff on the ground, we would just call it EXTO. Okay, so that's one differentiate there. Master file, the master categories are going to be EX and PR. Occasionally we'll do FU if you need a future designator, and then AR for architectural, and if you need to come up with anything beyond that, document that in the Project CAD workbook. The common group abbreviations are going to be, so here we go through MA mapping, is lot lines, center lines, easements, all of the survey mapping lines, so you don't actually see them physically on the ground, but it's the paper lines. We use PF for profiles. That's more of a land desktop thing, but we're kind of sort of using that for Civil 3D just a little bit as well. PN is planimetrics. That's all the man-made stuff you see from an airplane. So that's curb, gutter, sidewalk, buildings, roads, edge of pavement, concrete slabs, all of the man-made hardscape. Okay. Other stuff are going to be TO is topography. So that's ground manipulation. So that's existing topography. Or proposed topo is going to be your grading, your road, your site grading, your grading, your surface contours, and so on. And then typically, like for existing, we'll lump all of our utilities into a single file. Right. If you do need multiple files for utilities, then here are all of our different utility type abbreviations. So if you want to break them up, WT for water, SD for storm drain, and so on. And then again, the optional third pair of characters, if it's just contours, you do CN, or if it's text. Okay. Multi-phase projects, we put a phase number on the beginning. So that way, 01 indicates it's phase 1. That way, if they're all in the same master folder, they sort real nice. All the phase 1 stuff gets together. Okay. Don't use that too often. If you do tiled master files, so say you have a big contour map, but these things are, hundreds of megs worth of data. I don't want to XREF all of that. I maybe need just this piece. We'll cut it up into tiles, and then if it's tiled, you put the tile number on the end of the file name. So phase goes in the beginning, tiled goes on the end. Okay, don't use that too much anymore either, but just do have that option. For profiles, we usually call them PRPF, and then we'll have the road or the alignment name. And we usually name our road alignments RD, indicating it's a road, and then we just number them sequentially 01, 02, 03. So for the RD01, that drawing would be PRPF RD01. Okay, for Civil 3D, you may throw a -C3 on the end of it, like it says here, to indicate this has actually got the Civil 3D alignment and profile objects are in this drawing as well. Okay, so that's our Civil 3D naming. So kind of the same kind of thing as you know, PRPF dash, maybe what the road name is, so dash RD01 dash, and then again always put the C3 on the end, so that way we know that if I need to edit that roadway or that surface or whatever, that is the file that actually has the object within it. Okay. For our sheet drawings, little bit looser standard, but you're going to see for the most part they follow this format where, again, we're using 2-character abbreviations. We'll have a plan set designator, a plan set sheet number, and then you may also see a sheet type and a sheet type number. Okay, so lots of variation there. But for example, improvement plans. Basic is going to be plan set designator is IP for improvement plan, and then just sheet number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on. Okay. If you want to have a sheet type, we could then do IPTS as improvement plan title sheet. IPGN is improvement plan general notes. Or if there's multiple sheets, like PP is plan and profile, so we could then do IPPP01, IPPP02, and so on. Or you can do a combination of both, where like this, we've got improvement plan, this is sheet number 11, but it's the second plan and profile. Okay. I have a personal, I'm not a big fan of putting the sheet number in the name right here because you insert a sheet and now these numbers don't match anymore. So you kind of have to watch that, but kind of hopes it gives you a clue as you're looking at it, what's going on. Our plan set types, we have hundreds of different abbreviations. Okay, so here's all the common ones that you're going to see. If you're using one that's not standard, again, that should be documented in the CAD workbook for the project to hopefully help others figure it out. And then here's all the just different sheet types. All right, again, you see 100 zillion abbreviations. We also have an optional long file name format. We typically only use that for exhibit drawings, so we'll use the prefix ET to indicate it's an exhibit, and then just spell out what it is. That's our land use exhibit. Okay, so pretty straightforward. Working drawings, which I said are neither master or sheet, we typically will prefix those with a W and then what the heck is in the drawing. Okay, for land desktop, you know, I'm building the surface model in a working drawing. From that, we will generate the tin surface in land desktop, but then I'll have a separate file that we generate the contours in. Okay, whereas in Civil 3D, it's going to be blurred a little bit because we're going to have the model drawing with the Civil 3D objects, which I may then apply a style to display contours, which I can then very well XREF, or I could create a master file, data reference the surface, and apply the contour style there. So a couple different ways to go. Okay. A couple of things you'll see, title blocks. We usually do TB for title block. Optional plan set, you know, TB, IP for improvement plans. Okay. And then the title blocks we do in 2 pieces. We have one piece that we XREF, and then a second piece that contains all of the elements that are unique to each sheet. And they're usually just block attributes, and that one's going to have the same name, but it's going to have an I for insertion on the end. So our title blocks are usually done in 2 pieces. We XREF all the common border and labels and everything, so that way if you need to change the project title, you only do it once. You don't have to edit every sheet. And then we'll insert a block with attributes that I can then put in the sheet name, the sheet number, the sheet scale, and anything that's unique to that sheet. Okay. I'm going to skip this stuff. All right. If you do any temporary files, you just want to W-block something from one file that maybe tomorrow you need to insert into another file. You don't want to use cut and paste. Just put in either TEMP or TMP we ask then that you put your initials on it, so that way if we need to clean up the project, we can at least ask you, hey, do you still need this? Can I get rid of this? Okay. So that's all of our file names. How am I doing on time? Sprinting to the finish. You guys still with me?
Yep.
There we go. All right, layer names. Again, our layer naming standard evolved first. We started way back in old AutoCAD, where I think you could only have like 16 character layer names. The layer status bar only showed you 8 characters, so we had these 2-character abbreviations. I originally wanted 1 character. I didn't want to type that much, but we thought long and hard and came up with 2-character. So let me look at layer names here. Okay, so same kind of deal. Actually, it's the same picture. So our major, again, the same thing that we just saw for our master files. We do have a generic category. We just use a --, and that's going to be miscellaneous stuff. That's used for title blocks, notes, and things like that. That it's not a specific category. It's just a piece of text. And we did it that way so in your layer dialog, these all sort to the top, so it makes it a little bit easier to organize. Main ones we use are existing and proposed. Okay. And then the different categories. So this is a complete list of all the various categories we have. And then the descriptors. And there's too many descriptors that I can't show you all here, but if we scroll down in our CAD user manual, there is in the appendix a layer abbreviation. And it's a nice little flow chart that if I zoom in on here, you'll see there's our major, there's our group, and then here's all the abbreviations for all the descriptors. So, easements, edge of pavement, lip of gutter, and so on. All right, it has them all listed in here, and some of them are a little bizarre, and the intent is that we did not want to repeat any 2-character abbreviation anywhere. So some of our abbreviations are a little out there. Like one I always point out is spot elevation is SV because SE was used, SP was used, and so on. So the next letter we got available was the V in elevation. So that's, L was used, E was used, so we came up with SV is what we're going to use for spot elevation. You probably see this flow chart hanging in other people's cubicles. All right, it's a good quick reference for finding your way through there. To help you with that, we do have inside of our CAD applications, we have Standards Manager. So let me jump in and show you that. So we have the Standards Manager tab, and the way that works is, let me see which standard I'm using. So I'm using our Nolte default standard. You're more than likely, your standard will be DV for Denver, SL for Salt Lake, and they've localized where they've gone through and tweaked them a bit for the office. And the command that they're going to have is this layer create command, and this is, which version? I'm in 11. Okay, it's a little different for 2013, but you just pick your category. So I want my civil engineering category, and I'll come in. I want proposed, let's do some utilities here. So I'll do storm drain, and I need catch basins, I need inlets, even though it's synonymous. I need manholes, I need pipe, and I need my labels. Okay, you can also have some optional modifiers on here, and I'll pick add to list, so I can add those. It knows what they are. It knows based on my database what color, what line type to assign. Pick OK. It'll populate them here, and maybe I'm going to start drawing manholes first, so I'll set that one current, and then I'll create. Okay, and then I'll come back to my Home tab, and we'll see that my proposed storm drain manhole is now current, and I'll look, and there's all the other pipe layers. Everything else that I just made was done for me through Standards Manager. So you don't have to memorize all the different layers. We can use this layer create. We also have this layer ID where I can go in and pick on something, and it will tell me, oh, that's PRPNBG, that is proposed planimetric, and that's a building. All right, so we can actually list an ID. There's also ways we can audit a drawing and generate a printout listing all the different layers. If I hit reset, it will go back and set all the colors and line types based on the database. So if somebody's come in and changed colors and they've messed it up, I can just hit reset. There's also some symbol utilities where we can come in here and say I want to put in, here, let's do sanitary this time, and I want to put a manhole in, and let's pop one in right there, 0, and there's my sanitary. And the cool thing about this is if I pick on that, it knew what layer to put that on, so it's all automated for me, so I don't have to know what layer to draw my sanitary sewer manholes on. I just know I want one. It will make the layer. It'll set the color and line type based on the database. Okay, and depending on the office, you may also have some text styles defined, some dimension styles built in there, so some nice utilities for keeping track of that. That one. So that's layer naming. Right, so we showed you that, which took me into Standards Manager. So I've already showed you a little bit of Standards Manager. Okay, so we'll kind of skip to that. We created layers. Sorry. Yeah, so I had to update this because they changed the dialog in 2013. They've actually cleaned it up and combined it a little bit. Boy, I didn't like being that big. All right, bear with me. I'm just kind of going through here, making sure I've covered all of this. Okay, I did the symbol. All right, so yeah, so I got all of that covered pretty well. All right. Talked a little bit about master files and sheet drawings. Again, talked a little bit about how we put together our projects. So we're going to have our master model files, which we then XREF into our sheet drawings. And because of this, one thing you're going to find is like when we work with entities, we do not assign colors and line types directly to entities. Everything we do is by layer, because when I XREF something, I can manipulate layer properties. So I can have my water line be blue in the water line plan, but if I want to fade it back in my sewer plan, I can make it red, and that'll be a thinner line weight in the sewer plan. But I can't do that if I've assigned a color directly to the entity. So everything should be on the appropriate layer, and then we manipulate layer colors and line types to control the display. All right, and then we XREF. So the intent, the goal is that there's only one instance of any object or line, and then you reference it so that way if I edit that line, that edit shows up everywhere. Okay, I don't have to go edit it 20 times. To help you with X-referencing, we actually have our own command called XR. So if I come in here and type in XR, oh, didn't find, if you type in tilde, you get a file dialog. Oh, this one's got phase numbers on it. I wonder why that didn't work. All right, so I'll do O1 PRMA. So XR PRMA, and does it all for me automatically. All right, no, I don't have to set paths, and it'll automatically put it on the right layer. So if I select it and look at my home tab, you'll see we use a miscellaneous XR layer for our XREFs. So that way they're all on that layer. It set the path. If I look at the XREF dialog, we don't hard code the paths here, so it does save it without the path, so that way if we rearrange our folders and everything's set up right, it will find it in the master folder for us. All right, that's all. We've kind of automated some of that. Okay, so that all works for you. So it's XR. Oh, and it does everything as overlays, so you don't get nested XREFs. So that'd be nice and clean. The other thing we do in terms of XREF, some of our automation is we automatically set the project file search path, and we'll come in here and we'll see that it is set this one to, you get the little sheet of paper here, so it did set it to the right job, and it does set up the master folder. So as long as you use our little XR macro, and as long as you're putting places that drawings in the right spot, we automatically are setting these project work paths, so it should always find your XREF. And there are ways we can manipulate this if you've got a more complex job than this. we can set it up to do anything you want. But the default is it's always going to look in this master folder. Okay. The only problem with this is the first time you open a drawing in the project, this may not be set. You're going to say, geez, how come I don't see it in my XREFs? Save your drawing, close out, come back in again. This should be set then, and it should work. We can't set this until AutoCAD actually opens because we're using AutoLisp to do that, but it'll add these to you. This is stored in your registry. It'll set that up. So that's why it's again going back to saying about the CAD folder and the master folder. By naming these things exactly, we've got a lot of behind-the-scenes automation going on that sets all these for you and makes sure that they're going to be at the right location. All right, that's that path that I talked about. That thing I just showed you. That's using the variable called project name. So if I instead of options, if I just type in project name, you'll see it is set. It sets it to the same name as your job number of your root job folder. Okay, and that's all automated, so that it will find things for you. Get back in the CAD user manual. A couple of things in here. Just a picture I like, talking about how we set things up. There it is, Civil 3D. This, to shrink it back down again. There we go. Under Civil 3D Drawing Organization, I've got a picture here that I like using that kind of graphically shows the different file types. So we have all of our model drawings, and it's got sample file names listed in here, how this is put together and how they interact. The little green lines are our Civil 3D data references. The red lines indicate AutoCAD external references. Okay. Then we have our master files, and so again, some of these models can do dual purpose as both a model and a master, but there's all of our typical master file names. And then from that, we would then XREF these, whichever ones you need, to build the various sheets. And there are ways with Civil 3D that we can say, well, instead of doing a master file for the profile, I can just data reference the profile to each individual sheet and apply the styles and the views how I want them for each sheet. So there's some variations on how we can do this. But this is just nice, trying to take this complex organizational model and put it together in just a nice simple graphic. So we're looking at the three primary colors here of the different types of files that we work with. All right, for plotting, I'm not going to spend too much on here, but all of our layers and colors and everything correspond to our plot styles, and we are using color plot style tables, so there's CTB. We never really adopted, never really took with named plot styles. So we're doing CTB, and we have a style that dates back to the old original HP inkjet plotters had palettes. And we had palette A and palette B and so on. And palette A just became, as soon as AutoCAD started controlling that with the plot style and the CTB, we just named it the same thing. All right, so let me go back over to the CAD user manual, and down in the appendix is palette A. And the way this is set up, AutoCAD's primary 1 through 10 colors are going to be black, and then they're going to go from thinnest to fattest. So red is thinnest, and then you work your way up through and get a little bit fatter. So like all my leaders and dimensions are going to be red, because I want those to be thin. I don't want them cluttering up my drawing. My annotation text we typically do is green, so you see most of our drawings text is green. Larger text like titles and labels will probably go cyan. It's a little bit fatter. The object line of your drawing, you're going to start using the blue, magenta, and white. And then if you need some really huge fat lines, then you start getting up into these gray colors here that AutoCAD has. So that's your bold black line work. For existing on our construction documents, we start screening it back, and you can either use 11 through 19, which give you a little bit darker screening, or 21 through 29, which give you a little bit lighter. And I typically, myself, I work in the 20s. Right? I like them a little bit lighter. It gives me a little more contrast between existing and proposed. Okay? And we have two ways of doing that. We're either assigning gray 252 or gray 253, or they're going to be black at 55% screened or 40% screened. Okay, it's not going to be both. And the only reason that we did that is with our dozen offices, we couldn't get everybody to agree on which to use. Some offices like the gray, some like the screen, so we've set them up so they, no matter which office you plot at, palette A is going to give you the same look. Okay. Pen 20 was an afterthought. That's the thinnest line that a HP DesignJet plotter can do. It's 0.0004 millimeters. So if you need a really thin hairline line, you've got that there. The 30s are really super light gray or screen, and then the 40s are a really dark gray or screen. I very rarely use these. We've had projects in the past where we actually needed the 4 different levels of gray to show different shading and hatching and whatnot. But don't use these for existing, because these will disappear when you make copies. These will turn black when you make copies. So very rarely do I use those. But again, we had a need in the past, and that's just the way that the plot style evolved. Right. If you want color, if you need red or yellow, you can use AutoCAD colors 50 to 254. Those will use then the color assigned to, I say entity, but it's going to be the color assigned to the layer, and then the line weight assigned to the layer. You know, so if we jump back in and look at our layers real quick here, and just pick on the color. So we'll see if you want red, you can use, color 240 will be red. If you want blue, you can go 170 or whatever. Here's green. So you can get pretty close to the primary colors, but you work out in this area here, or you can go over to the True Color tab and kind of fudge your own color in. And then you just need to make sure, back up, you just need to make sure then that you do assign a line weight to that layer as well. Okay, but that's how we can kind of throw some color, if you need to throw some color into a map or a drawing using our palette A. Where'd it go? Right here. All right, so that's how that's set up. The palette A half is the same exact thing, but instead of telling AutoCAD to scale your line weights, you can use this CTB file, and what it does is they're not 50% of palette A, they're about 60-65%, so it lets you do half-size plots, but with a little bit heavier line weights than if you just told AutoCAD. Okay, so you can either use palette A, tell AutoCAD to scale line weights for your half-size, or turn off the scale line weights in AutoCAD and then use this one if you want them to be a little bit fatter. All right, almost done. Oop. Just a hair over. All right, so we did plotting, plot styles, we talked about plotter configuration files. We've configured your AutoCAD to look locally, so if you create your own custom configurations, they're going to save on your C drive, but then you also will see the Q drive, that common folder I talked about, the shared configurations. We have a CAD live directory, and then for each version of AutoCAD, we have these plotter config folders. For newer versions, we actually designate between 62-bit and 32-bit, 32-bit and 64-bit, because the drivers were different and the PC3 files wouldn't work for both versions, so we actually had separate. Okay, work with Jim and Aaron in your offices to make sure you're configured correctly, to make sure that you've got access to your LaserJet, your DesignJet plotters. Okay, page setup names can be saved. Just make sure, again, you're kind of standardized with the people you're working with on what you're naming page setups for the DesignJet and the LaserJet that you guys are working on.
That's Scott.
Say again? Do you have a question, Paul?
No, I'm good.
Okay, I thought I heard somebody must have.
No, what I have...
okay, just background noise. All right. We do also use sheet sets. We do have some sheet set tutorials, some custom sheet set templates, and then I've also got an older handout on more detail about how we plot. Final piece I'll look at is just, again, going through the end tools a little bit, talk about that. So let me go back into my AutoCAD, And on that toolbar, so here's our NTools toolbar. I talked about the button. This will bring you right into, pop open the CAD support site, or I can go directly to the CAD user manual. Okay, so we pop those up, and those are also available on the NTools ribbon tab over here. Okay. We also, for Civil 3D, we have a style library utility that on the older versions, it's a web-based. For the newer versions, it's a separate interface because Autodesk broke it on us. But it allows you to get in, and we can come in and drill down and pull styles. If you hit on the image, you get a little help document that shows you what it looks like or how to use it. And then we can just select an add, and we'll actually add those styles to your drawing, so then you can assign it to your object. So that's the little eyedropper icon here.
Well, and
brings that up.
Moved to NV5, and so
other utilities here.
I did.
We have detail library,
I'll
a program library which gives you access to all of our custom Lisp routines and other applications that we've developed over the years.
Yeah, I'll do that.
Okay. We have our own custom layer property tool, which lets you actually, if I had Civil 3D stuff in here, you could pick on that. There we go. I'm sorry, I muted you guys. I think Paul's got somebody having a conversation on me here. But you can go through and pick on objects and drill in and modify, turn on and off, either XREF layers or freeze the whole thing. Change colors just by selecting entities. And then we also have, for Civil 3D, we've got custom programs for modifying stuff. There we go, profiles, points, surfaces, and grading. Definitely encourage you to kind of poke around in here, see, look at what's available on there. Through the program library, again, if you come in here, I can search on you. I'm looking for Polyline. And it'll show me here's everything that does stuff to polylines. I've written most of these Lisp routines, or most of them are open. I can get into them. If you find that you've got a task that's very repetitive, or you need to extract a bunch of data, or you need to do something that is going to take you, 20 hours to do manually, but gosh, we've got this routine that does it to circles. I need to do it to polylines. Give me a call, and maybe in a matter of a half hour to an hour, I can customize some of these routines to do exactly what you need. And that's how most of these are developed is, somebody is trying to do something, and it just was real cumbersome to do manually. There's a lot that can be automated on here. And the way these work then is you can come in here. It has descriptions on the commands, and then you just hit the load button, and it will then load it into your AutoCAD, and then you can just issue either of these commands for this one, and it'll run that command. Okay. The favorites just puts them over under this tab here, so you don't have to go search for them anymore. You don't have to go digging through here. And then the macros command, there's actually a personal macros that loads every time you load AutoCAD. So if there's a routine that you use every time, instead of having to go and load it each time, you can make it so by adding it to the macros that it will automatically load. Okay. I'm not going to say too much on here. Again, you can kind of look through the CAD orientation here. It lists out what all the different commands do. Talks about all the different ribbons. Okay, and then this goes into more detail on the program library, how to find all the custom access to all the custom apps that we've created over the years on there. So that'll be on there as well. And probably as we go through the upgrade over the next few months, we are upgrading everybody to 2013. I do plan on doing some monthly webinars on new features, and I'll probably, towards the end of that series, do a session covering all these custom tools for Civil 3D. All right, so a few minutes over. I apologize for that. Let me unmute you guys. All right, so any questions, anything? I know it's a lot. Any pressing question right now?
No, I'm good.
Okay. feel free, email me, communicator, call me, whatever. As you go through this stuff, I threw in 10 tons of stuff in 2 hours. I just want to kind of give you the broad overview as succinctly as I personally can to kind of give you just an idea of what's there and what's available. Questions are going to come up. Don't struggle with it. Again, my job is for you guys to bother me. I get that all the time. Well, I didn't want to bother you. I don't. I'm not billable. There is a budget for my position that is not billable, and my job is to be bothered by you guys. So you're not taking me away from my project when you call me or ask me questions. So I'll finish up with just stressing that, as you work through this, if something doesn't make sense, feel free, email me. If you don't want to bother me all the time, compile a list and send me an email with 10 questions in it or whatever. That's fine. So, all right. Well, if there's nothing else, I'd like to welcome you both to Nolte, to NV5, and hopefully you have a good, prosperous career with us. And when I get out to your offices in the coming year, hopefully I have a chance to meet you face to face.
Sounds good. Thank you.
All right. Well, if that's it, I'm going to end our call, and we will talk to you guys later.
Okay. Thank you.
All right.
All right. Thank you.
All right. Bye.